You're listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series.
Well, good morning to you, and it is that time of the morning. David and I were just having a nice little chat off air and realised, hang on a minute, it's time for us to talk to everybody else out there.
Yes.
Well, how are you, David?
I'm very well. I'm well for, recovering from cancer, and I've had, you can see on my face, I've had two little bits of my face, diagnosed as yes cancerous. So on Friday next week, I go under the knife and under anaesthetic, today surgery, to remove a couple of cancers, one under my eye, on my right cheek, one down beside my mouth on my left cheek, and one on the top of my left shoulder.
Whether you're a huge monolith or whether you are just a humble Supreme Court judge, the ravages of time all have an effect.
Look, being a Supreme Court judge is just another job. It's like being a mechanic or a builder. People put things around it, but the bottom line is whether you're digging ditches or whether you're presiding over a court, you're just a man or a woman. That's what you are.
All right. Well, today's topic of the day, we announced it last week, there was a song that sort of went R-E-S-P-C-T.
P-E-C-T.
P-E-C-T. Yes, respect.
Yeah, well, that's a good one, isn't it? Because I went yesterday and there were people at a thing I'm going to hopefully be involved in. I walked through the door and I spoke, and the first thing a woman said, "I know who you are." And I said, "Oh, do you?" And she said, "You're the judge on Radio 4CRB. And she said, "I could listen to your voice all day." And I said, "Well, thank you for a very nice compliment, but, we're just humans."
That's exactly right.
Anyway, she started talking about, she said, "Well, your background, you will see tremendous examples of lack of respect."
Yes.
And I said, "Yes, but I also see tremendous examples of respect that you're not expecting, and that comes out and it takes your breath away." So again, it's that part of the human condition, isn't it? As the yin and yang science shows, we have tremendous light in us, we have tremendous darkness in us. And the battle in life is don't let the light be darkened. And, I was thinking on this that if you have two rooms, one in pitch blackness, one with light, and there's a door between the two of them, and you open the door, well, the darkness doesn't flood in and diminish the light, but the light floods into the dark area and lifts it up. So respect, what is it? It's a part of the human condition that can hear or see some things done, not just by other humans, but by animals, and be taken away by it, be totally overwhelmed by it. And if we confine our discussion this morning to humans, you can see some humans who just take your breath away. And respect is that response you give to them, and not necessarily directly to them, but speaking about them. But you see, as I said, you see some of the darkness of people, and that turns you away.
It is. One of the early things that you used to hear a lot as a child is respect your elders. And then I moved on and remember hearing someone explain it to me, and forgive me, I can't remember who or what it was, but it was defining, it was a light bulb moment that helped me understand it exactly. And we often see this term role model and, these wonderful sportsmen, they're wonderful role models, but you do need to define in what realm. You can respect and you can appreciate their athleticism, their skills in the game that they're playing or the sport that they're performing. And you can respect that component of that person. Respecting someone for who and what they are is a completely different value statement.
Well, I think you're right. You see brilliant swimmers or brilliant tennis or brilliant anything.
Yeah, footballers.
And you can be overwhelmed with admiration. I think admiration and respect go pretty much hand in hand.
Sure.
In that aspect. But sometimes, and we've seen it in life, there are some people gifted with brilliant football skills or whatever who are just horrible people inside.
And you and I have run across a few of them.
Oh, we sure have, haven't we? And so you can respect the externals of what someone does, but it's the person who not only matches the externals, but matches their internal ways, and you think, good heavens, and they take your breath away. When I was a young boy, I was a choir boy at St Paul's Cathedral in Melbourne, and obviously, being in the cathedral school, we had a lovely life. We were well educated, and have obviously mixed with very senior clerics in the Anglican Church. And the Archbishop of Melbourne at that time was a man who'd been the private chaplain to King George VI. It was Sir Frank Woods. He was a gentlemanly man and a gentleman. And my admiration for him increased because I fancied his daughter in the church youth group. Clemence, her name was, Miss Clemence Woods, and she was the fair English girl because the Archbishop was English. And she was long blonde hair and very genteel. And my father met me one evening after one of the services, and I don't know how it came up, but he made a very telling point to me in my life, and I was been about 11, and he said, you should always respect any position, but the person gets respect by the character of them.
Correct.
So be polite and respect. And we use the Archbishop as an example, and he was first class in both. But my father said, look, he's the Archbishop of Melbourne. He's one of the 5 primates in Australia. He's been knighted by the Queen. He was the Queen's father's private chaplain. And so you should respect that, what he's achieved. But if he's not a worthy man in his own behaviour, then don't respect that. Respect his position, but the best respect is someone who draws from you respect for them, their character, their way of going, if you like, and the position that they hold.
Indeed. It's an all-round encompassing look, but it can be compartmentalised or broken down into components.
So what is respect? Well, it's absolute admiration. And let's take the example of the person who's totally worthy of respect in what they have been called to do and in their character and their person. Well, you admire that, but if respect is given to someone like that, they give so much more back.
Yes.
Because they become a role model.
Yes.
They become someone you think, I'd like to be
aspire
like that.
to that.
Yeah, aspire. That's a good word because you think of it and you've known them, I've known them. There's nothing so off-putting as someone who holds this great position and yet you find out they're a rather...
shady character.
Well, not necessarily, but they're just not remarkable characters. So you start to think, did they get the position because of favouritism or someone they know? So I think respect, proper respect, comes for someone who feels both. You admire them, you aspire to them, you see them as a role model in your life. This is the way I should and want to and will behave. And so if you do that, there's a good chance you will other people will look at you and do the same.
Look, last week we tackled a responsibility, and there is an element of that in respect. It's interesting when you hear these respect your elder comments when you're a younger person, and I suppose one of the components of that is respect the experience that they've gained over their lifetime, or respect the authority that they have.
Well,
in the
my
role
father
that they
made
play.
comment on that, and I remember he said to me, Don't be too taken by respect your elders. Elders must earn your respect, David. And I was 11. And he said, so again, respect the position, but if the person really, in your view, is not worthy of it. So he applied that to elders as well, because he said, even in your short life, you've seen enough mature people to turn you away from certain things.
That's right.
So, respect your elders. That was a common one that we grew up with, wasn't it? Respect the government.
Yes, that's another one.
Yes. Respect the police. My father's attitude was, don't argue with a policeman. If he says something, you say, if he says jump, you ask him how high. Yes.
Look, I think it was a little different of time. But
Yeah.
look, one of the comments I was going to make there with respect that person or respect this person, it's funny how it sort of goes hand in hand with trust. You hear the comment, trust is earned, not given. And in some respects, when we talk to about respect, we often give it first and then realise, hang on a minute, we probably should have gone the other way and allowed that person to earn that respect.
Yes. Well, I think you fall into that type of category if you just respect a position. And, he's the Archbishop, or he's the Premier of Victoria, or the Prime Minister of Australia. I went to school with Sir Robert Menzies' his grandson. And I attended, in primary school, his birthdays, and we were told, look, behave because the Prime Minister will come. And I still remember Bob Menzies as this big man, white-haired, and he was impressive to 10-year-old boys and 11. And yet he was, when he'd come to these things, he was a grandfather. Just a lovely white-haired grandfather, and the way he would speak to us. And I've often thought of him as he had massive respect because it was the age. He could have been the worst-tempered man, but he was a long-serving Prime Minister. But he showed us as boys grandfatherliness.
Yes, that's right.
So I think you've touched on it. If the listeners, you think of people you've known in your life or still know in your life who you hold utmost regard for and respect for, look at them, look at their character, look at their nature, because no matter how important you are, if you're an undeserving person in your person, you'll never have respect.
An undeserving person. Look, it's funny, isn't it, how you think back to those people that you met in your childhood, like you said, the Prime Minister there. And the word statesman comes to mind to me, but then you need to define that. I then fast forward to the current crop of politicians, and I can't paint them all with the one brush and go, they're chalk and cheese compared to some of the ones that... Because there are some politicians that I do respect. I think that there are, they walk the walk and they actually talk the talk and they believe in exactly what they're saying.
Unfortunately, there's not enough of them, though, that they hold sway. And this is my view only, listener, so it's not the view of the station or of Colin, but the majority of them, I don't say they're in there to make money or anything.
Self-serving is the word I use.
Yes, they are unlearned. They'll tell you how learned they are. They're not, in my opinion. They don't have a good concept of public service, public face, public offering, and yet they come out with the most mealy-mouthed words that then lead equally uneducated, unlearned people to follow them and to say how great they are. Now, you use the word statesman. Well, I think that's a good term. When I look at the current raft of politicians on both sides of the two houses, how many of them promote themselves or are seen as statespeople? I think I listen to, and again, this is my opinion only, I listened to Senator Wong speaking about how bad it was that the Pauline Hanson group turned their back on the welcome to country in the opening of the Senate. And she was arrogant. She was, in my opinion, she was arrogant, dismissive, and simply rude. She lost sight of the fact, well, this is a democracy, and it's a democracy in this house as it is outside. And if you've got people who view welcome to country in that way, just don't you accept it. And then I listened to Senator Nampijinpa Price stand up and defend what they did. She spoke passionately for about 10 minutes, and in my opinion, she spoke and absolutely destroyed the arrogance of Senator Wong.
Look, and that's an interesting one because, again, as much as people are going to jump on that, we can cause some grief over here for this group of people and so forth, we're judged by our actions. And in essence, freedom of speech and freedom of expression are one of the bedrocks of our society.
They are.
They are entitled to do exactly what they did.
Yes.
We will judge whether we accept their behaviour or we don't accept their behaviour.
No, and I think that's what led Jacinta Price to just turn as being a half-raced Aboriginal woman, but the content of her speech was powerful. And certainly she gained she's always had my respect because 2 years ago I was on a speaking forum with her up in Brisbane. And she is a bright and formidable person. And yet she's feminine, she's ladylike in the way she does things. And that's why it was so interesting to see her so passionate in decrying the arrogance of Senator Wong.
Look, the interesting, forgive me, was she the senator who confronted the King when he was here last?
No, that's Lydia Thorpe.
That's the one I struggle with.
Yeah, she is, I don't know, but she's certainly probably 1/8 or something. Now, she's entitled to be passionate.
She is, very much
but
so.
But again, her behaviour in that was disrespectful.
Correct, and that's the bit. There was a way of doing things, there's a way of registering your complaint or your concern or your grievance, and I don't believe that was it.
Well, she has every right to hold the views she holds, and she just decries white Australia as terrible. Yet, she's as white as you and I.
I'm going to put a timeline on this one, David. Let's think about the word respect and what it meant when, look, you're a little older than I, and let's just pop us in the same on the same raft. When we were young, compared to what you see respect as today, are they different viewpoints?
I don't think so. I've come across 16, 18-year-olds who are like what I hope I was. I think we are burdened by poor journalism today, sensational journalism that just wants to pull in readers because you know as well as I do, things are nowhere near as bad as it's painted.
Yes.
Australia is not going to hell in a handbasket.
No.
Islam is not going to take over Australia. So you don't need to be...
The sensationalistic view is definitely... And again, a good example this morning is, and I've forgotten the name of the gentleman, but he was married to the lady who defrauded a lot of people through her financial schemes.
Yeah.
And the headline was he was arrested, right? So we waited 10 minutes and basically he had assaulted a lady in the street. But the insinuation is what had transpired
Yes.
with Melissa
now
Kadich
we
was
can
what we will
address just a thing quickly in that. He assaulted a lady in the street. Well, that's against the law, mister. It was your wife who's, they only ever found a foot with a shoe in it off Sydney Rocks. Now, sad that she did that and then took her own life. But sad that he's tarred with a brush, so he assaults a woman. Now, the judge will have to hear it. And if, for instance, the evidence came out that he had to undergo a tirade from that woman against his deceased wife, how terrible he was and all that. No, well, a judge does have discretion to say, look, an assault is an assault and it's against the law. But now I'm going to consider punishment.
Yes.
And the punishment wouldn't be the same if he had blatantly just walked up to a woman and dangerously assaulted her. To me, he'd go into prison for a little stint.
Well, we've got a couple of comments from
Yep.
our text messaging service, and it is Jacinta Price. Powerful but gentle, agree with David. And yes, the other one is about common sense and it becoming
that's a
less
good
and less
one.
common.
Well, common sense is a better roadway to respect, isn't it?
It is.
Than passionate bias.
Yes.
Passionate bias, and I think look, Jacinta Wong is, everything I've seen of her is a good woman. She's bright.
Penny Wong.
Oh, sorry, Penny Wong, yes. I'm conflating the two. Penny Wong is a good woman. She's bright. I'm happy that she is the Australian Foreign Minister. But when she spoke the way she spoke, I just thought, how dare you? You know, you're too good a human being to be arrogant and rude like that. Well, then Jacinta Price came into the forum, and in my view, no doubt others will think Price was terrible and didn't win. Price just ate her up.
Yes.
Just ate her up. And so, again, respect requires so many different aspects of the human condition.
It does. And it's funny. Look, it's just, I think since the last election, the journalism component of the television or the radio in respects, especially if it's attached to Murdoch Media, has been absolutely blatantly negative towards the Labor Party. And almost exactly as you say, where they're completely biased towards the Liberal side of the fence. That isn't delivering us a fair view.
It's not,
of
and
either
therefore
party.
It's not worthy of respect.
Correct.
And pro-Labor side, pro-coalition side, both of you are and disrespectful. Get out of the forum if you can't do your job properly.
And that's the point. I think the basis of good journalism when I was a younger person and when I was taught was deliver the facts and allow the viewer, the listener, the reader to determine their own opinion about those facts.
How many times have we said, in my youth day, the only person that had an opinion was the editor?
Yes.
The journalist's job was to just report the facts. But if you look at a number, I won't name them, but a number of highly educated journalists who are so biased, and if I had them before me in a court, I would intervene. I would stop them and say, you're here to answer under oath what you saw, what you heard, in other words, your view and factual truth. I don't want to hear your opinion. You can't give an opinion. You're not allowed to give opinions in courts of law unless you are there as an expert witness. They're the ones who give opinions.
And I read we've just had a brand new version of the Community Radio Broadcasting Codes of Practice be released. And the bit that I'm focused on is this fake news component because, again, where do you draw the line? If someone's actually providing or has political skew in their opinion or their commentary or their delivery of a news item, isn't that fake news to a point? And again, it's very hard to
It's
work
a
out where the
euphemism.
line is.
It's a euphemism for a lie. Your fake news? No, lying news.
But to them, it's real.
Of course it is. And that's always the human condition, that we have freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion. How many times have you met people in your life who make a statement and you think, that is absolutely not true? You've then entered the forum and you're dismissed as biased, or, oh, you're not true. So you've got to live with that. But respect is the word that comes in, which in these areas we've now got into, journalism, respect comes in. And how many times do you think you've heard, well, Colin, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Now, William Santayana, 1911, I think. And that's been lost. I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Yes. It's funny now how things need to be absolutes, don't they?
Well,
Black or white, right
yes.
or wrong.
It's my view or my way or the highway.
Yes.
My view or you're a liar.
Quick summary.
Well, respect, I think we've done a good coverage. I hope the listener feels that the same. Respect is what is drawn from a person's behaviour, their being, their state of mind, and what it draws from the observers, the hearers, the listeners. So it's got to be inspiring, it's got to be truthful, and it's got to be almost mesmerising.
There we go. David Ashton Lewis, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you again, Colin.
You've been listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series. Support local online content and become a financial supporter today at 4CRB.com.